why does this matter to men? Like, what is all this mathematics I'm just spilling and talking about? I know some of you is like, wait a minute, my head hurts. How much more me that's speaking, right? Men would need help to get a partner because the migrants will be adding to the pool of single men. Mind you, at the moment, there are more females than men, but more single men. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think it makes sense. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Major Pain Podcast, the only podcast crafted to guide men like you on unraveling your uniqueness to transform the world around you. If you are a lady joining us, feel comfortable to listen as we hope women learn how to build better men through the golden nuggets we will be sharing and learning. Follow this podcast wherever you are listening. Kindly like, subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. I hope you are doing well. It's just a few weeks until 2022 is over. It's been a while since I created an episode. I know you missed me. I missed you too for sure. This is going to be a long video because we need to get intimate and we need to talk about a lot of things. Some of you know when I started my coaching business, that was like 2 years ago, I focused on the life purpose niche because I am very passionate about helping people define their purpose in life. I became more interested in men's coaching because growing up without the presence of a father and being who I am today, I felt many men needed the coaching and mentorship I never got. While in my men's coaching, I had more women who needed to define their purpose reach out to me. Still, my heart was beating and sinking deep for men to hear what I had to share because my message was breathing, living words that would improve their life. Some men reached out to me, and since then, it's been a great deal for them and myself. Offline, I have had my share of breaking bread and communing with newcomer men and those who got established in Canada for a long time. When I stayed offline, I researched and analyzed men, especially Canadian men. I realized that men aren't into coaching and mentorship as much as women are. They are more into videos that give them the meat and bone of a matter they are interested in. I mean, you know the kind of videos I'm talking about, right? The majority would only follow you and buy your course if you are older or if you have money, if you pull a lot of chicks, and if you have some crazy story about being in the hood or, just some kind of weird story that just makes you look like this type of Marvel or DC kind of superhero actor or whatever. I mean, they size people up before they follow them. It's more like they somewhat follow the people they want to become. For those of us who have nothing to show, like we are not buffed up, we aren't driving Lamborghini, we are not pulling chicks, we are just married to one wife, but we are burning in the Holy Ghost and we are intellectual and we speak hardcore truth. Few folks are interested in our content, and you know what? That's okay. That is okay. For those of you who have been following me, commenting on my podcast, sharing your thoughts, reaching out, I appreciate you. I don't take your engagement for granted. We are entering a new phase of the Major Pain Podcast. The last phase was an introduction to something bigger, better, and brighter. As a newcomer to Canada, I have spent 4 years learning hardcore lessons I would be intentionally sharing with you. As I am currently taking a digital marketing certification course at York University, I was assigned to write a research paper for a blog post that needed to be published on York University Wellness blog. I decided to use this opportunity to research new immigrants to Canada since that was a niche that I was passionate about. I got to interview my new immigrant friend, Jerry. Jerry, hey, what's up? So I interviewed Jerry to build a realistic persona. The answers I got from him validated some of my challenges when I immigrated. Some of the challenges identified were loneliness, not knowing where to get African food, building community, uncertainty, not knowing where to purchase winter clothing, job search, understanding Canadian women, and so on. The data I got from the interview enabled me to create, publish, and promote a well-researched blog post titled The Winter Guide for New Immigrant in Canada. You can check it out using the link in the description. So my friend Jerry read this blog post and he commented on the blog post among other people who had read the blog post. And Jerry's comment was, "You have no idea how impactful this piece is to me right now. Like, it was hitting me back to back. Thank you so much for taking your time to analyze the remedies of winter, especially as it applies to a typical new immigrant in Canada as myself." And then he laughed. He also sent me a WhatsApp message saying, "You are a godsend to so many, including myself." He added, "I needed you to know that from me, and you are doing a pretty great job, even though I know you know already." So this validated what the Holy Spirit has been telling me. I spoke with another new immigrant friend who also confirmed the same thing. He said that all the struggles I went through as a newcomer, that I went through them so that I can help others. And that is something that I'm fully drawn to. New immigrant men face many challenges and they need support from someone who understands their struggle. I understand our challenges might differ, but we all go through challenges. Men in general have little to no support, howbeit new immigrant men. To this end, my brand, Major Pain INTL, will be officially creating content for new immigrant men. And I would be providing newcomer mentorship to this category of people. The goal is to help new immigrant men build their confidence, establish a community, create a dynamic social media presence, manage their time like a boss, even job search like a boss. And I can see that a lot of them struggle with re-establishing practical values and belief system because of how intimidated the system can be. And a lot of them still struggle with understanding the Canadian culture. That's something that we are going to be offering and covering. And I also see many of them struggling with learning social cues. That's like communication and all those essential aspects of just living in general. And the other component which I notice more is just navigating dating sites. And there's a whole lot more that I'll be covering. I need to spell out this disclaimer, okay? Because I hear or I see some of you saying, "Oh, Paul is an immigration consultant." No, I am not an immigration expert. I am not in any way providing immigration consultation. I am only speaking from my experience, from my coaching background, and I'm referencing available resources that are available to you. And you can go online, and most of the items I'm going to be referencing, you can have access to them as well yourself. I don't help people relocate to Canada. Kindly visit your immigration consultant for that. I have pulled down my other offering and programs from my website. As for my digital media and marketing mentorship, I would create another website for that, as it is a different offering altogether. My Major Pain INTL site would be fully for life purpose coaching and men's coaching. I intend to serve men aged 18 to 35 who are newcomer to Canada, men who are from single parent homes, young entrepreneurs, and any other brother who is interested in living purposefully. You can ask, how many times do I need to reintroduce myself and my packages? Well, even if I have to do it 100 times or 1 million times, I would do it until I get it done. There's no stopping for me. I'm in this for life, and I want to live a purpose-driven life as much as I want you to also live a purpose-driven life. So the more I need to readjust and make sure that I am granular in my purpose and my service, I will continuously do so. If you belong to the segment I have mentioned, please follow me or kindly send me a message. I would love to connect with you. As for those of you who know that I was creating this podcast, you are in for some awesomeness, trust me. Today's episode is the first from a series I titled The Immigrant Man. The first topic we'll be covering today is the challenges new immigrant men face. In the second episode, we would cover how can new immigrant men maintain their mental health. And in the third part of the series, we would cover why new immigrant men need a mentor. Now let's jump into this first episode, just talking about the challenges new immigrant men face in Canada. According to Statistical, between July 1st, 2020 and June 30th, 2021, there were an estimated 107,865 new immigrants to Ontario, making it the most popular immigration destination of any province. The government of Canada has an immigration plan to grow the economy. A published news article on the IRCC website stated that last year, Canada welcomed over 405,000 newcomers, the most we've ever welcomed in a year. The government of Canada is continuing that ambition by setting targets in the new level plans of 465,000 permanent residents in 2023, 485,000 in 2024, and 500,000 in 2025. As you are listening to this podcast or watching it, you might have contributed to this number by relocating to Canada, or you might plan in the future to be part of this number. For those of you who are here, you will notice that there's a massive difference between what you've heard about Canada and what you see. You aren't alone in this exclusive vision. I was also in your shoes when I relocated to Canada in 2018. I had no Canadian experience, life was uncertain, and it wasn't easy to make new friends among other complexities we would be exploring. Starting life again is hard. It is more problematic when you are restarting without the correct information. Accompanied by culture shock, missing your friends, your loved ones, you might question your choice and fear the unknown future. Some of these challenges are systematic, while some are self-induced. How do we go about just talking about the challenges? So I would cover some surface challenge, and within them, we would go deeper because they would have some sub-challenges that we'll be talking about. So that way we can just dive deeper into the roots of some of these challenges. Okay, now the first challenge that we are going to be jumping right into is finances. Let's talk about money. Financial literacy is a significant setback among newcomers to Canada. Although some new immigrant men might be wealthy in their home country, this wealth might influence their resettlement, that is, making it easy for them to resettle. Multiple financial expenses are waiting for you as a new immigrant man, depending on how you came to Canada. First, if you came in as a permanent resident, the truth is that, like, say 50% of your issues are solved. You might not need to get a lawyer for your immigration case like someone who came in as a refugee. Legal cases will likely swallow you if you are a refugee. There is an opportunity for legal aid, but I'm not sure how accessible that is right now. Some lawyers can charge up to $5,000 and above, depending on the intensity of your case. And it might be like, where are you gonna get that $5,000 from if you're just coming in and you don't have a job yet that is, paying you well and all that. Some men who left their wives and kids back home struggle to get satisfactory jobs to even settle themselves, pay bills, and send to their families back home. Some men might not want to work specific kind of job because they feel they might degrade themselves. There's just this pride you immigrants have sometimes. You just come into a country and you want to be, you expect to work as a manager or a supervisor in some certain type of workplaces or positions, and it's like, seriously? This sudden financial shift can cause different personal and interpersonal issues that might impact their confidence, attitude, life, relationship, and even future. Unfortunately, when newcomers relocate to Canada, most get carried away with the lavish lifestyle, credit card expenses, and disguised financial freedom. Doubtless, many have gotten trapped into believing they are living the good life when running in a hamster wheel of hustle, buy, pay, and repeat. Depending on where you reside in Canada, some provinces might have better paying jobs and lower taxes, so the standard of living varies, giving some new immigrants better options to resettle faster than others. Comparing lifestyle across provinces is quite common, mainly because most immigrants relocate to Canada to witness the good life. The good life itself is sacrificial regardless of the province in which you reside, and you need an authentic strategy to make your dreams a reality. In your home country, you might have support from family members, friends, and strangers. Unlike your home country, Canada is a highly independent place. Therefore, you have to plan your financial future with extreme wisdom. That wisdom is very scarce. This explains why you see an immigrant who have been in Canada for say 20 years and they are still living like a newcomer. Why some men are excited to depend on the Canadian government for daily bread, others have outgrown that paradigm. What could be the problem with this? How about we explore finance and culture? There's a cultural component to finance. How you spend your money, how you save, how you plan, it can be linked to your culture and upbringing. Some cultures believe that the man must be the breadwinner, therefore, the man has to go out and work his brains out even though his wife is more qualified than him. Some cultures feel the woman have to pay her husband at the end of the month, the moment she gets paid her salary. Although women in third world countries are increasingly becoming independent, they might look up to the men for support culturally. But there have been this financial shift, and women are beginning to outperform men financially in a global scale. Many men need to grasp this understanding, otherwise it will weaken their marriage or delay them from being in a serious relationship. The good news is that newcomers see higher wages as stated in the Star article. It says median wages went up across all immigration categories and for both men and women from 2010 to 2019. The median annual salary for male immigrant was up 10.2% annually from 32,500 in 2010 to 62,300 in 2019. As a new immigrant man, I recommend seeking an effective strategy to attain career advancement and a pay increase. Now, the second challenge that we'll be exploring that newcomer men face in Canada is career. Finding work as a newcomer in Canada can be challenging without an influential network. Knowing how to sell yourself, attracting opportunities, and getting referrals and recommendations can be tedious if you don't have the appropriate guidance. The guidance could come in multiple forms. You might need someone to guide you on how to use the transport system, or even ask questions like how to read a map, how to get a car, how to buy a home, how to network, how to do your insurance, how to file your tax, how to register your business, what legit side job can you do, do you need a business number to drive Uber, what happens when your work permit expires. I'm running out of breath. Like, the questions just go on and on. It's like a baby learning how to walk again, especially if you haven't lived abroad before. No doubt there are agencies ready to help, but the help can only go as far as you are registered with them. And some help is beyond their funding and would need a personal touch. And some help too might just come in when they are not open for work, especially if you say after 5 o'clock, or maybe it's weekends, right? How would you go about it? I remember when I was about buying my car, my head almost exploded because there were specific people I was expecting to show me how, but they shared little to no information. All they said was, go do your research. I was like, wouldn't I need a guide to follow to start a search? Thanks to people like my best man Tayo, the man who referred me to where I got my car was my perfume dealer. He is right at Kennedy and Lawrence. The Perfume Spot is the name of his business. So if you are in that area and you stop by, just tell him that you want to use the coupon code Paul, and he would laugh, and he knows I'll be referring people to him. I needed to get a car for the job I had. I also needed to have a G2 license for me to get a car. By law, a G1 holder would need to wait for 1 year before upgrading to a G2. But if you have an existing driver's license in the States or an international driver's license, you can upgrade by taking the test. So I had none of them. I had none of these items I just stated. The only thing I had was my Nigerian driver's license and then the G1 driver's license, which I had just taken the test. So I needed to send over my Nigerian driver's license to the Nigerian consular at Ottawa to get a letter stating that I have X number of driving experience. So it's with that I would then take the G2 test, and then they have the letter proving that I have this number of experience, and that way I can upgrade to a G2, which will then enable me buy a car. So you can see the steps can be really overwhelming. To some people, it's like, yo, that's an easy thing. Like seriously, you think that is an issue? Yes, it's an issue, especially when you are to resume work 1 week from when you are having all these issues piling up. And the Nigerian consular, Lord help you if you have to do anything with them. Like, those guys can take forever to answer you. And but if somebody doesn't understand the process, the steps they need to take, it is confusing. You don't even know where to start from. You understand, right? And I have been able to provide information like this to my new immigrant friends who are coming in, and they have no idea about issues like this or things they need to prepare or plan and all that. But due to a network or connection like myself, they now have those type of information and they are able to prepare. Now, speaking about the job, I got the job, and thankfully the supervisor who wanted me to work with her, she was so patient and she guided me through the process. And she was just like, no problem, Dora, we have some time. We'll make sure that everything is okay, and she was just a fantastic person. She became my mentor. And up to this day, I can say that the success I've had and all the things I've achieved within 4 years of my stay in Canada, I can say she is one of those people who have helped enormously. And it was through that mentorship, that guidance, that I was able to achieve these things. So if you are a new immigrant professional living in Canada for less than 5 years and you are struggling to get your desired career, you can book a free consultation with me. Let's plan your personalized goals. I want you to succeed, and that's the goal. That's the reason why I am making this content. That's the reason why I'm pushing out this call out, calling you to reach out. You have a community. You have someone who's willing to have that conversation with you. You are not alone. We went through all this process alone, and sometimes we had allies with us, but now we are like, now is the time we have to give back, and we are here for you. The moment you arrive in Canada, the clock starts ticking. This part of the world moves very fast, and every move you make counts. If you are moving in the right direction, that is undergoing the right certifications, program and courses, applying for the right jobs in position, and making the right network, you will be glad, you will be super excited. In contrast, some new immigrant men have chased different career plans due to bad advice or vague aspiration that need to be more realistic. Some people have yet to learn what it takes to attain their desired career. I can continue without making mention about one component that I know we new immigrant men struggle with, and that is pride. Pride, trust me, is a huge barrier and blockade. If you think you know it all, we wish you the best. But if you want, you can ask for advice and you can ask for clarity. Due to pride and lack of clarity, many people settle year after year. They dwell on a temporary victory of their relocation and they use it to decorate themselves. Oh, I'm in Canada. They think that's all about life, unknown that there's more to life than relocating to Canada. Now, let's talk about work permit. Canada employment law are stringent and are adhered to by many employers. There is a slim chance of getting a legit job without a valid work permit. This explains why specific workplace Most factories take advantage of new immigrants who don't have paper. They pay them peanuts. They harass their workers, and you cannot report to labor union. Because you are also breaking the law. And to make matters worse, you can be quickly profiled with your SIN number, especially if it starts with a Series 9. This means you are a temporary resident, you are visiting, studying, working, or you are a refugee. By law, when a work permit expires, you need to renew it before it expires. The processing time varies. Online work permit application inside of Canada takes about 168 days, while a paper-based application submitted via the mail takes about 84 days. While your application is processing, your employer might become reckless and impatient, and they are unsure what the outcome might be. So to save themselves, they might let you go. This adds pressure to your finances, bills, and living, placing you in a limbo state. There is a news I came across about people just sitting in a limbo, waiting for a renewed work permit, but cannot get a new job because they need an updated work permit to apply. This can affect a man's mental health, performance, livelihood. Imagine if he's the only one working in the house or his family is back home and he needs to provide for them. You don't want to mess with a man who is hungry, or most times a man who has no source of income. You can just imagine the frustration such type of person would be going through, and there are many men like that going through this issue. Many people, many ladies going through this issue, but again, we are focusing on the men. This can even make a man less attractive, as he wouldn't carry himself with great confidence. This is the part where I say Canada will humble you. I'm sure some people who are familiar with this terminology, they're just gonna start laughing, because this is what we say, especially to people who are very proud and arrogant and all that. Canada will humble you. That's just it. I make a lot of joke about this statement for real. I was on a Twitter space the other day, and it's a Twitter space for those who want to come to Canada, and people in Canada just giving advice, and someone made mention about this, and I was just laughing because my wife and I, we do talk about these things, and I was just like, wait, baby, can you hear this? And we're just laughing because it's the truth. We've seen people who just think but then just give them a while and they're just like, wow, man, they just they had ice, and indeed the weather can be very cold, they just had ice poured on them, and they're just so cool, because they've seen things. There are so many experiences every new immigrant man is yet to witness that will humble him. It might be good, it might be bad, it might be horrible, but in the end, it's up to you to use that experience to advance your life. Now, while talking about career, let's focus on workplace culture. I have heard of horrible experiences regarding new immigrant men who got fired for sexual harassment due to slurs or words spoken to their female colleagues. In your home country, the case might be different. You can grab a couple of drinks with your colleague and play dirty games. Many men don't understand the Canadian workplace memo. Your colleague isn't your friend. They aren't people you can have sexual encounter with. Some workplaces have that embedded in their policy, especially if you are in a managerial or supervisory position. Your colleagues are just professionals like yourself who need that paycheck like yesterday. It will be best if you didn't make your life more complicated. A new immigrant man might struggle with acting professionally. He must remind himself that growth is inevitable on this path he has chosen to follow. That is coming to Canada. Okay, let's do some temperature check. How are you feeling? Is it getting hot in here, or is it just me that is feeling the heat? Because we're really touching some back-to-back issues. Some things you didn't expect me to talk about because you just felt I'll just be focusing on the challenges itself and not talking about how we contribute to those challenges in our own way. I feel like we wouldn't do justice if we are just looking at it from one angle. Rather, let's see how the issue, yes, could be from the system, and also how did we also like contribute in making some of this issue long lasting? However, how can we just take responsibilities, right? I think that's where we can make some positive changes, right? And move forward. Okay. So, pardon me if your table is shaking or if your table has broken. Just know that we have to talk about these things, and we definitely will talk about other ways that you can, protect yourself and, approach certain things and position yourself for a better future. Now, the other component, which is the third aspect, the third challenge that new immigrant men face in Canada, communication. I'm sure the ladies in the house, they are like, woo! Tell them, Paul, yes! Our communication style are different globally. If you are from a communal culture, your verbal and non-verbal communication might involve physical, which is touching people. You understand, right? Getting extremely close to a person when you are speaking to them, especially expecting continuous feedback and excessive communication. Yeah, that's something I was also guilty about, right? Why this communication style is very unique, many new immigrant men witness a pushback or miss out on connecting due to a communication style that is overwhelming to the Canadian culture. The Canadian culture is polite at face value, but from another perspective of socialization, the Canadian culture, it is reserved and independent, which begs the question of how do people establish trust in this country? How do they build friendship? How are relationships made? How are business transacted? Like, how do you guys do these things? I mean, that was one thing I was also like, very curious and worried about. But I mean, here I am being able to do all these things, which means that there's a learning curve. One aspect of the culture that is a significant driver of change is how we communicate. Some cultures might view looking at someone in the eye as rude, while in Canada, it is a crucial communication tactics. Active listening wasn't something I got to learn while growing up in Africa. We listen to speak instead of listening to understand. As a new immigrant man, you would have to learn the basics of communication, especially active communication. What is active communication? I know some of you might have heard about this, or you might struggle to understand what the definition or the concept of active communication means. Some of you might be well sounded and grounded in this. Kudos to you. So I'm going to read a definition from Brandon Voss from the Black Swan Group. They define active communication as a technique that enables you to verbally and non-verbally communicate in a way that makes you agreeable and easy to understand. Active communication birthed active listening. Employers pay attention to these skills as it is crucial in the workplace. Another important category of people who pay attention to this skill is women. Trust me, if you cannot pay attention to what is said and observe their body language, if you cannot show that you are listening using your body language like nodding, smiling, or if you can't give a speaker feedback, you are likely to be ignored and cannot strike attraction. Does this make you reflect on why you haven't gotten those dates? Right? Maybe. It could be. Now, let's focus on another aspect that communication is very essential, and that is the fourth challenge that new immigrant men face in Canada, relationship. This is an important area in many new immigrant men's struggle. They possess little to no understanding about international women's psychography. That is their lifestyle, their everyday activities, their interests, their personality, their values, attitude, belief, opinion, social status, and much more. The question is, are you interested in learning, or are you just on purpose choosing to ignore or be ignorant about it? I'll be creating multiple content for you in this area because I know how essential it is to you. And to add, I am married to an international woman, so I would bring a lot to the table. And I met her here in Toronto, which is one of the most difficult places to meet someone. In a published analysis of the demographics of Canada by Statistics Time, the sex ratio in Canada in 2021 is 98.58 males per 100 females. There are 18.90 million males and 19.70 million females in Canada. The percentage of the female population is 50.36% compared to 49.64% male population. Canada has 0.4 million more females than males. Yeah, let that sink. Let that sink. But you know what is going to shock you more is the next thing I want to talk about, the rise of single men in Canada. Yeah. In 2022, there were more single males living in Canada than women. This year, that is 2022, there were 9.67 million single males in Canada and 8.6 million single females. These figures have been increasing steadily since 2000. As Canadian women are becoming more career focused than family focused, this will increase the level of singlehood in the future. Statistica.com published the number of people immigrating to Canada from 2020 to 2022 by gender, about 242,884 females and 250,100 males migrated to Canada within those years. These statistics can be backed by the gender-based analysis published by the Canadian government. In 2020, approximately 44% of those applying for permanent residence admission identified as female and 56% identified as male. Why does this matter to men? Like, what is all this mathematics I'm just spilling and talking about? I know some of you is like, wait a minute, my head hurts. How much more me that speaking, right? Men would need help to get a partner because the migrants will be adding to the pool of single men. Mind you, at the moment, there are more females than men, but more single men. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think it makes sense. Yeah, there's a high percentage of women in Canada, but there are more single men. So now you understand why it's not just happening. Now you understand why, certain things aren't happening. However, we would still focus on something very important, that is making men single. Now, depending on your province, depending on where you're watching this video from, you might not agree with what I'm saying. You might say, oh, I'm lying, the statistics are flawed, this and that, No problem. I'm just, again, citing and bringing facts to you. But I have a lot of friends. And don't forget, I was once single, so I know what I went through. And I also have a lot of people in the field, in the streets, and they tell me like the street is rough, like the street is hard. That's both from the female side and from the male side. So I'm not just here just giving opinions without having like solid fact or data or stuff like that. So depending on the province you are, getting into a relationship might be easier. I have heard that Toronto and Vancouver are difficult places to find love. I mean, again, I'm in Toronto. I witnessed hardship in the streets, man. It's rough. Why I've heard Montreal and Quebec cities are brilliant places to find love, especially if you speak French. Like when I visited Montreal, I saw a lot of interracial like relationship, black guys with like white chicks, and I saw a lot of black guys like really out there on dates. I'm telling you, I don't really see that in Toronto. Correct me if you are wrong. I don't know where you are, but I'm telling you what I'm seeing. I'm telling you what I'm noticing. But I somehow feel like Montreal, Quebec, because of how European their thinking and living is like, unlike Toronto, that is more modernized and liberal, and I don't know, but it could be too that could also be some of the things. But so far, I've heard it's easier to find love there, so you might want to think taking those French classes serious. if you don't know how to speak French. If you do, you might also consider going there. I love Quebec City. The time my wife and I visited, we're just like, man, how much is a 3 bedroom flat here? And we saw it, we're like, yo. I was like, I wish I took French class seriously. Probably would have just moved because yeah, it's cheaper. I love the place. I love the place. I mean, so beautiful, like oof, magical. Yeah, I mean, you can give it a try and just see how it is like. Now, let's talk about another component in this relationship aspect. Like, we just talked about the rise of single men in Canada. But what do you think could be the reason? Trust me, the reasons are many. They are so numerous. But when I was speaking with someone, one of my church member who is a Canadian, he made mention about social castration. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, that is new to me because I kept asking him, I was like, what's up with Canadian men? What's up with Canadian men? I've been, doing my research on Canadian men and all that. They're really nice people, really, really laid back, chilled, they're unique in their own way. If say they are first generation immigrants, it also adds to why they are behaving that way. And if they are just new immigrants who have been here for like 10 years, you still get to understand and see how they get to do their things. And if you are just fresh off the plane, we get to understand why you are acting the way you are acting. So so it's very interesting. It's a very interesting dynamics of masculinity so far I've seen in Canada. As an immigrant man, you might have heard about the feminist movement, which branched into healthy and toxic feminism. Why feminism has helped in many ways. It has also castrated the social life of men in Canada, wherein men don't have the confidence you would expect them to have. I mean, take a look at it. I've seen a news talking about Canadian women traveling to the Bahamas to find love. And I heard the crazy things that goes on in Bahamas. So guys, if you have a girl who says, oh, I'm just going to Bahamas with the girls, man, you might want to plant some cameras or you might want to book that plane ticket too and just, go with your binoculars to see what's going on. Because it's strange. It's like, okay, they go out there to look for love, to look for spice, to look for the heat. And then they come here and they just acting like, I don't need you. I'm okay by myself. Like, what's going on? Who is lying to who? Well, I mean, I'm married, so it doesn't bother me much. But I just feel so sorry for the other men who are going through these things. I see many men are scared of getting into trouble as they get heavily punished for little to no mistakes. They fear being reported to the authorities or accused of sexual harassment, which has destroyed a lot of men's life. Such allegation can strip a man of his job and future opportunities and lead to other unforeseen circumstances, especially if he's seeking protection as a refugee or if, say, he's a temporary resident. Now, we have a little background understanding of what has been happening. You can see why relationship can be very tricky in Canada and why men instead focus on their career, probably play video games and hang out with their buddies. Well, so we can see it from this one perspective I've just narrated. But how about we look at this social castration from another angle? Is it really women who are the problem, or did men permit some of these issues to persist? I was talking to one of my church members because we have this, it's my co-lead for a men's fellowship that we get to organize like every week. And I told him about the same word that, are you sure like men did not contribute to some of these issues? And then when we got talking and I was able to narrate some certain things and I was like, makes sense. Or like, yeah. So one thing I noticed so far, sometimes I usually say, I am coming in with a fresh eyes to this issue. I get it that some of you have been here for a long time. So you might say, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm coming in with a fresh eye, which is one of the best eyes you can ever have because I can point out the blind spots and I can say, this is something that I'm noticing that is weird, it is strange, it is not, And I've been to different places in the world, so I've seen and lived different lives, and I can tell that, yeah, like there's something really off. So if what I'm saying you might not agree with it, it's okay, no problem. I mean, you don't have to necessarily agree with what I'm saying, but I know there are other people who are excited to hear me say these things because they are just afraid of saying it or shy to say it or scared to admit that this is an issue and this is something they are struggling with and they need a solution to this issue or to this problem. So, but something I noticed, and I'm going to call out the men in this area, like I noticed that Canadian women are more involved and active in the community. I see more women involved and engaged, like contrary to men who are less engaged in community activities. Now, I'm not counting your beer hangout with the boys or matching for a social course that you are just interested in. I mean, that's not really it. I'm talking about joining social clubs, organizing events, advocating, building the next generation, and being intentional in causing a change wherever you find yourself, especially in your own home. I mean, when you see this whole like there's an issue in a school and there's a school board meeting. Who are the most people you see there? Women. Where are the men? I always used to ask this question most times. Where are the men? Like, I get it. You guys are working. I get it. You guys are busy. But again, can't you see that is because you are not really involved in these things? That is why society is becoming how it is. The more I look at the decline of masculinity in Canada, the more I really understand why society is upside down. Men are less involved in life-changing events. Men are leaving leadership to women. Now, I'm not saying women don't make good leaders in specific, positions and all that. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that men are not leading as much as they should. You can argue and say, what about politics? There are many men who are in seats of authority. No problem, but that's just a small percentage, just a small fraction of men. Where are the most percent of men? Playing video game in their mom's basement? Selfishly working for their paycheck and not directly causing a change. They are just floating around and looking for the next one night stand. That's some other population of men. That's just what is their goal. Interesting. Very few are driven by passion. Very few get driven by purpose. Little to none get to create a legacy. And then we can complain and say, or I hear them complain rather, that, 21st century women is like this. Women have changed. I need to get, what's that word that someone would say, I don't want to get married again. And I'm like, how many years have you lived on earth? Just 16 years? And you're saying, I don't want to get married? Oh my God, like, Lord, let's have that conversation when you're 30 or maybe when you're 40. Yeah, right. Now, the other aspect is the red pill that you really want to take with a grain of salt. Just like how the feminist movement have created toxic version of themselves, the red pill community has also done the same. Again, you can argue with this for all you want. That's your cup of tea. I'm just saying exactly what it is. The red pill came as a saving grace to many men who needed saving, actually, especially in activating their masculine traits, which has led to confidence that has sparked unbeatable attraction among some men. Although, as the world transcends into its inevitable state of decay, some folks intentionally make money from men's sorrow, loneliness, and desperation. That's correct. They might sell false narrative and convincing lies which many men find comforting enough to lead their lives with, creating intense depression and singlehood among men. You want to be careful who you take advice from, and you want to take it with a grain of salt. Not everything you see on the internet or not everything you hear on the internet is actually true. You need to live life, not just hear life. You need to live it. Yeah, I feel like someone needs to hear that. Now, let's jump to the fifth challenge new immigrant men face in Canada. I feel like the previous point just makes a full episode on its own, but let's jump into this. Family. If you relocate to Canada with your family, your challenges might surpass your imagination. Why focusing on your mental health? You have your wife and kids. That's if you have one to look after. Why this might be difficult, it can also be adventurous and rewarding when things are done right. Family play a huge component in Canada, especially with how lonely and independent everyone is. It presents an avenue to bond with your family and be involved in their welfare. Surprisingly, many new immigrant families can witness significant issues staying together. Mainly when social integration occurs, some family members easily get influenced, creating a gap in cultural values, approaches to life issues, and problem solving. Canada can change your household if you aren't strong enough. An article from CBC stated the following: continuing an established trend, Statistics Canada said the number of Canadians living alone reached a high record of 4.4 million in 2021, up from 1.7 million in 1981. In 1941, just 6% of Canadians lived alone. By 2016, single-person household had become more dominant household type, making up 28% of the total. The number of single-person household rose up in 2021 to 29%. Couple with children account to 25.3% of household, while couple without children make up 25.6% of households. Single-parent families account for 8.7% of household. Many reasons are contributing to the rise of loneliness in Canada. Some reasons we looked into earlier. On the other hand, new immigrants can make themselves homeless, helpless, or even destroy their families. You want to be careful on that. The other aspect, which in part of family that is also becoming a major concern, is gender-based violence. This is common. This is a very common issue in the immigrant community. As a matter of fact, one of my mentors in church was speaking with me, and he was telling me how in Australia there's a high rise of gender-based violence among the immigrant community, and also in Canada too. And the reason could be that, judging that most immigrants are from countries with patriarchal cultural values, it is a trend that's likely to continue. However, Canada protects women's rights above anything else. There are specific things that might fly in your home country based on culture, but it might raise an alarm when practiced over here. When women relocate, they arm themselves up with laws of the land, especially those who have been abused, molested, mistreated by their partner or husband, or traumatized by such. Not to mention, may I remind you that over here in Canada, women have more resources and support compared to men. Gender-based violence is beyond physical. There are other types of abuse such as sexual, psychological, financial, emotional, socioeconomical, and so on. So, as an immigrant man, I understand you are having so many issues, so many drawbacks, so many things that make you just want to lose yourself. But dude, you have to chill and you have to hold yourself and comport yourself, okay? And try as much as possible to maintain a healthy mental health so that you don't get kicked out of the house into the cold or sent back to your country. All right. So you want to be very careful. Now, the sixth challenges new immigrant men face in Canada. Some people might not consider this a challenge, but I do. Religion. I have seen many new immigrants throw religion off the window the moment they come to Canada. Some folks suddenly just lose faith in God and start onboarding secular practices and belief system. They consider that as being progressive and infusing themselves into the Western culture. If religion is part of your identity, let's take a look about this way. If religion is part of your identity, getting rid of it might affect your identity. Religion has ties with morality and healthy values that will make you become a legend in your community and in your family. Now, this is the unpopular advice in Canada. As a matter of fact, as I'm saying this, I mean, people are just like rolling their eyes or whatever. No problem, whatever, but I've said it. There's room to upgrade your religion sense by having access to resources, book materials, and courses at your fingertips. Like we have a very fast internet service providers and all that, and all those teachings and messages that you've been wanting to listen to learn, to understand. Now it's your time. You have YouTube, you have like unlimited internet access, so why stop yourself? And instead of just binging all those Netflix and all that, why don't you just take out time and at least learn something and build your spiritual self? As a matter of fact, for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, yes. And I noticed something, that I became a better Christian when I migrated to Canada. And I know this is not the case for other people, because again, they got carried away and they just lose themselves. But for me, I saw it as an opportunity to, I just realized that, yeah, like I wasn't even practicing Christianity as much as I thought I would. I just realized, especially now that I'm taking a discipleship course, and I'm like, yo, like my attitude and approach to Christianity was more of the what can God do for me, not who is he. I am curious to know who God is, and I want to know who he is. Rather, it was just what can I get from God, which is so transactional than a relationship type. So you see, that's a two different type, and you can clearly see how some Christians exhibit and express this attribute in their Christian life and in their Christian faith. So as a Christian, I've grown spiritually, significantly improving my life, and I cannot count how many courses I've taken. And I would challenge you to do the same. It's very helpful to improve your life, your well-being, and everything. All right. I know this podcast is completely different from the 20-something that I have created. And you might be wondering, like, what's up with this guy? Like, this is just different. Yeah, it is completely different. I 100% feel that this is something that I am drawn and called to do. And not just that, I just recently graduated from one of the most stressful and most difficult point of my life. And now that I've paid my price and paid my dues, now is the time for me to connect with you. And I'm going to keep releasing this episode. I don't care whether it's like it might align with some of the things you agree with, or it might not. For me, I'm just playing my part. I'm just speaking what I've been asked to speak, and what I've been authorized to say, what I've been commanded to say. And you might wonder who is commanding me and all that. God, I'm telling you, like I have been drawn to do this, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just passing out the message, and also here to help as many people that need help and support. So I know I've said a million things. Let me know your thoughts in the chat. What challenge stood out to you, and how are you able to resolve the challenges that you face? I'm really curious to know how you have been, holding up, especially if you're a newcomer man. And if you are a man 18 to 35 who is either a newcomer or a young person who is an entrepreneur or from a single parent home, I'm excited to have a conversation with you. You can reach out to me. You can visit my website, www.majorpainintl.ca, or you can send me an email at majorpainintl@gmail.com. I wish you the best, and I'll see you in the next episode. Cheers and take care.